Chapter 4702. Whereas on the Earth realm side, it was because of the appearance of the Black Shadow. Their originally soaring morale had turned into panic and fear. They were easily shaken. Everyone in the world group's expressions were solemn as they looked at the Black Shadow who had wiped out the entire army, as their hearts were filled with uncontrollable shock. But they couldn't show it on their faces. This Black Shadow. It was really too scary. He was totally a killing machine. He only knew how to kill. He totally disregarded himself as the pitch-black shadow was covered with a large amount of blood. In a split second. This war, which was originally led by the Earth realm, had turned into a huge loss. Everyone in the world group's expressions sunk as they clenched their teeth tightly as they cried out sternly, "Everyone, don't panic, let's unite together. This person definitely has a way to deal with us. If we panic, then we'll be giving the opponent a chance. Bring out the morale from our earlier battle, get into formation. As long as we drag till Madame Qing Luo rushes over, we'll have a chance to win." Sonorous and forceful roars were heard. But it didn't make the Earth realm's people listen to them. Especially the last sentence. It seemed as though it had poked the point of their rage while they were escaping in fear. There were also those who were escaping from the Earth realm who were cursing angrily, "You're not afraid, doesn't mean that we're not afraid of that monster. How can we possibly deal with him? By the time you find a way to deal with him, we'll all be dead. What red-robed war god, Pui? He doesn't even dare to go onto the battlefield, pushing you bunch of yellow-haired brats up. Who do you think you are? Just don't dare to go onto the battlefield, pretending to be some powerful big shot, only daring to stay in a safe territory, arrogantly chasing people away, but not daring to go onto the battlefield to kill the enemy." Momentarily, the battlefield was filled with insults towards Yi Qing Luo. As though they were venting all the fear in their hearts and the rage from being tortured by the Black Shadow onto Yi Qing Luo. When the world group heard that, they were so infuriated that their faces flushed red. As Yi Qing Luo's diehard fan, Ni Ruo Pan was the first to turn red. Madame Qing Luo didn't come to the battlefield, she naturally has her own plans. You guys don't know anything, on what basis do you have to say that about her? Plans. I think she's just afraid to go onto the battlefield. Someone sneered. You all. Ni Ruopan was so angry that her eyes turned red, but her brain couldn't think a single word of insults. Bai Ming Lulu pulled Ni Ruopan behind her and used her small body to block Ni Ruopan. His gaze towards those people from the Earth realm turned cold. "Since you don't believe in Qing Luo's ability, then there's no need for us to stand here." Finishing her words, Bai Ming Lulu waved her hand and called out to the world group's people to leave. The Linglong Palace's disciples naturally followed behind the world group. The main force left the battlefield midway. This is very bad for the situation. Immediately, some of the powers panicked. What kind of joke is this? We're in the middle of a great battle. You want to leave just like that? As expected of a group of brats. They don't know the rules at all. The war hasn't ended yet. What right do you have to leave? The faces of the world group turned uglier and uglier. The speed at which the Black Shadow slaughtered was getting faster and faster. He was still in a daze. In the blink of an eye, he had already killed his way to the front of some of the forces. Fear in the face of the shadow. We are not people from the Earth domain. What does the Earth domain have to do with us? If we help you, it is a favor. If we don't help you, it is our duty. Since you look down on us children, why do you need to rely on our strength? Because of my body, I have been adjusting my sleep schedule recently. The babies who are familiar with Master Mo would know that I have been flipping day and night, causing my body to be unable to take it. My spine, stomach, kidneys, endocrine and other bodily functions are getting weaker and weaker. Maybe after sitting in front of the computer for a while. My ears are buzzing and my head is spinning. My eyes would suddenly turn black and I would quickly wake up. Adding on to my age, I'm not considered young anymore. My body isn't as good as before. The doctor strongly reminded me not to stay up late and my mother is keeping a close eye on me. I've been pulling all-nighters for about a year. My body's habits make it so that I can't sleep at night. When I finally fall asleep and it's daytime, my mother would force me to wake up. I can only rely on food and habits to sleep at night. Adding on to the fact that I'm updating 2 books at the same time, I've been in a drowsy state during the day. I can only reduce my updates. Reducing updates means that my income will drop and that I'll lose the right to receive the full attendance award. There are many things that I'll lose, including a portion of you who have been supporting me until now. But for the sake of my body, I can only choose this. I hope that the babies can understand. The body is your own, so everyone must take care of your body and sleep early and wake up early. Don't think that it doesn't matter just because you're young. That's what I thought in the past. As a result, my body is even worse than a 30 to 40-year-old person. My last sentence, I'm only updating less, but I definitely won't stop updating. Once I've adjusted myself, I'll immediately resume updating 4 chapters. End of this chapter. Watch start Zue new chapter section. Please arrive Tang Kushop, mobile address. Chapter 4703. A portion of the Earth domain powerhouses were speechless. Wild Sand Literature Network. But there were still people who were pestering endlessly. When they saw the black figure getting closer, they pounced towards the world group in fear. This is a battlefield. How can you leave as you wish? You want to leave? Then leave from hell. They intentionally lured the black figure towards the world group. Because a portion of the powerhouses noticed. Ever since the black figure appeared, it had been crazily killing the people of the Earth domain. But it did not harm the people of the world group at all. A portion of the Earth domain small powerhouses were infuriated when they heard the world group's arrogant words. No matter what, they had to drag that bunch of brats of the world group into the water. Ni Rupin and the rest's faces sunk as they scolded silently, looking at the person pouncing towards them. Without any expression, he directly raised his leg and kicked out a profound wave. The formless profound wave sent those people from the small powerhouses flying. The black figure was right behind. Those people from the small powerhouses didn't even have the chance to cry out in pain. They were torn into pieces by the black figure. But the black figure's target was because of this. The world group and the rest. Damn it. Scatter and escape. Bai Ming Lu's face congealed as she immediately shouted, then blame it on my target, he's facing us. The people of the world group immediately scattered and escaped in all directions. The black figure chased in a straight line. The direction it was chasing towards was Ni Rupin's direction. The black figure's speed was extremely fast. Flying upwards, there was no chance for them to react at all. Ni Rupin's wrist was already grabbed by the black figure. The cold touch caused Ni Rupin to shiver. Following that, the black figure's other hand also landed on Ni Rupin. Was she going to be torn into pieces? Ni Rupin's heart instantly jumped to her throat. She was tense and stiff as she wanted to break free. She couldn't use any strength at all. She could only see the black figure's pair of bloodthirsty and cold eyes. Bam! Suddenly, a powerful and majestic profound energy chopped down. The bewitching red glow was extremely sharp. The black figure sensed the danger and stopped the movement of his arms as he turned his head fiercely. In the blink of an eye, a figure appeared. A red figure flashed past. The black figure's hand became lighter. Ni Ruopan had broken free from the shadow's control. Roar, roar, a furious roar came from the mouth of the black shadow. The shadow angrily pounded the ground. The entire battlefield was shaking. The despair of being on the verge of death and the pain he had imagined did not strike him. Rupin felt warmth in her heart. A comforting fragrance wafted into his nostrils. She suddenly opened her eyes. His eyes met with a pair of enchanting eyes. Chapter 4704. That monster is reared by witchcraft. A flat mechanical voice was heard from behind. Yiqing Luo turned around and saw Mo Yuing, who was dressed in a pink dress, walking over expressionlessly. Yiqing Luo's eyes congealed slightly as she looked at that black shadow which was slaughtering a portion of the Earth Domain's forces. Isn't old Wu's witchcraft not yet refined successfully? Could it be that the old Wu whom she met previously was really fake? I don't know. Mo Yuing shook her head stiffly as her eyes were without any ripples. It has the evil chi of witchcraft on it. I got it. Yiqing Luo's fingertips flashed with a brilliant red glow as the glower flame fan appeared in between her slender fingers. I'll go meet it. Qing Luo. Bei Ming Lu took a look at those people whose eyes were filled with hope as they looked towards Yiqing Luo with a sunken face. That bunch of people from Earth Realm, don't think highly of us bunch of wimpy kids from Nirvana Realm. Since they don't trust our ability, then why should we help them? Apparently, Bai Ming Lu was still upset over what those Earth Domain's small powerhouses said. The other forces hurriedly opened their mouths. How could we possibly not trust you? Imperial Madam, you must save all of us. Previously you could save the Earth Domain, now you can definitely save us too. Yiqing Luo can't afford to ask for your help. Yiqing Luo only rely on the Overlord, and now that the Overlord isn't around, how could we possibly save you, right? The other brothers in the world group also used their words to stab them. A portion of the Earth Domain's forces were angry and frustrated, but at the moment of life and death, they could only bear with the bunch of brats' humiliation as they spoke out in a low voice. How would we dare to question Imperial Madam's ability? Imperial Madam had once saved our Earth Domain, she's our benefactor. Everyone in the world group chuckled coldly. While they were speaking out one after another. No one bothered about those Earth Domain's people who were enraged by the Black Shadow and started killing each other. Whereas some of the Earth Domain's forces' expressions turned uglier and uglier. And more terrified. There were some who directly knelt on the ground, begging Yiqing Luo to help. Yiqing Luo's appearance. It made those kids in the world group who were protective, to vent out all the resentment in their hearts. They'll show up here. It was all because of the word love. Friendship, it was just friendship. But in the eyes of these unimportant people, she had become a natural sacrifice. Why? As they said, they were just a group of young children. He had no obligation to risk his life for them. It was one thing to humiliate them. Unfortunately, they had also humiliated Yiqing Luo. During the previous war in the land, they were not present. However, he had heard Xiao Yinyan and Mo Yuing talk about the situation back then. Yiqing Luo had relied on her own power to save the Earth Domain from the abyss of suffering. Whereas these people still had the cheek to accuse Yiqing Luo of not appearing on the battlefield because she was afraid. And he kept on saying that Yiqing Luo had relied on the Overlord to get to where she was today. They couldn't take it anymore. Yiqing Luo naturally knew that these brothers were feeling unjust for her. She smiled lightly as her pink lips curled upwards, as her gaze towards the crowd was extremely gentle. All right, we're standing here, not because of them. No matter where, no matter what, there will inevitably be this kind of contrarians or selfish people. But at the same time, there are people who really want to protect this piece of land. Since I've come to the Earth Domain and promised City Lord Xiao, then I will definitely keep to my promise. Yiqing Luo's gaze slowly shifted towards that side, towards those people who were trembling because of the Black Shadow, begging for mercy towards Yiqing Luo's direction. The glint in her eyes became eerily cold and severe. Chapter 4705. As for whether you live or die, it has nothing to do with me. She slowly walked forward. Her fiery dress fluttered. Like a blooming rose in flames, bright and ostentatious. Boundless profound strength encircled the young girl's body. Her fingertips moved and a hurricane struck towards the black shadow. Instantly, it attracted the black shadow's attention. The young lady's cold and seductive voice slowly reverberated in the air. I made a move, not because I want to save you, so I don't need your gratitude. If you want to live, then pick up your weapons and win this battle. Saying that, the young lady's figure moved. She leapt up and attacked towards the direction of the black shadow. The world group's people didn't really intend to wash their hands of this. Yi Ching Luo made her move. Everyone had already adjusted their state, and as swift as usual, they mobilized the Earth Realm's soldiers and started a fierce battle. The other forces in the Earth Realm raised their heads to look at the ostentatious figure who stood in mid-air as she faced the black shadow with a normal expression. A devastatingly beautiful young lady was emitting a cold and majestic aura. Noble and elegant, aloof and cold. As though she was above the 9 heavens, her arrogance was resolute, overlooking all living beings. Only looking at her, endless confidence arose in her heart. The contrarian had no mood to continue arguing. At the same time as Yi Ching Luo closed in on the black shadow, the black shadow's target also turned towards her. Both sides were soon engaged in battle. This black shadow's ability was indeed very strong. It was similar to the experimental product which Yi Ching Luo had seen at Old Wu's place. The black shadow's power was like a wild beast. Vigorous and tireless. Totally using brute force, it tore apart everyone who stood in front of it. No matter how strong the cultivator was, they couldn't withstand a single move from it. Although it was similar, but in actual fact it was very different. The black shadow in front of her should be a finished product refined from witchcraft. As compared to the experimental product which she had seen before, it was much more active and powerful. And it was more human-like. At least, when it exchanged blows with her. The black shadow was like a human, it knew how to dodge and attack. But ever since Yi Ching Luo appeared and attracted the black shadow's attention, and after exchanging over 10 moves with the black shadow, the pressure on the Earth Realm side had finally lessened. Each and every one of their gazes towards Yi Ching Luo were filled with astonishment. Wherever that black shadow went, no matter how powerful the profound practitioners were, they were torn to shreds without any room for resistance. Whereas Empress Madame Yi Ching Luo was able to exchange blows with the black shadow without any change in expression, and was extremely relaxed. Was this the difference between them and Madame D? Chapter 4706. But it was quickly dispersed by Yi Ching Luo's demonic red glow. The black figure let out an angry roar. Its pitch-black pupils were filled with viciousness as it stared at Yi Ching Luo. Its body twisted as it struggled, trying to break free from Yi Ching Luo's restraint. Yi Ching Luo's eyes drooped slightly as her long and narrow eyes stared deeply at the black figure. Her pink lips rose as she sneered coldly, "Don't waste your energy, your profound yin qi has no effect on me." Ever since she settled the corpse puppets refined by the Nether Palace. After the glower flame fan swallowed the Nether energy towards the Nether Palace's evil qi, it had no effect on her. Not only was there no effect, it could even purify the profound yin qi. Especially, with her current ability, she had nothing to fear against the profound yin qi. Adding on to the Azure Water Divine Weapon and Azure Dew Bracelet. Towards the profound yin qi, there was nothing to fear. Seeing that Yi Ching Luo had easily subdued that monster who could annihilate an entire army, the morale of the people from the Earth Realm soared again. One by one, they started to shout the name Red-Robed War God. Sonorous and forceful shouts rang out. It made the atmosphere of the entire battlefield start to change. The black figure roared unwillingly. But it couldn't escape from Yi Ching Luo's restraint. After that, Yi Qing Luo's fingertips moved slightly as the demonic profound glow was released from the glower flame fan. It turned into a sharp blade as it directly cut the black figure into two. Bam! At the moment when the black figure was cut into two, endless black gas quickly spread out and filled the air. The thick evil qi of witchcraft spread throughout the entire battlefield. When the heaven realm side saw this, they were delighted. But before the smile bloomed on his lips, only to see that red-robed young lady suddenly leaped up. A blazing vermilion bird spread its wings and flew high. The phoenix feather was overflowing with colors as it dazzled with brilliant sparks. The young lady stepped on the vermilion bird's back as she stood facing the sky. Clang! The vermilion bird's mouth spat out a blazing flame as it burned towards the surroundings of the battlefield. Everywhere it went, it was set ablaze with raging flames. After the shock, the people from the earth realm, they were frightened by the burning flames as they scurried around. However, after coming into contact with the blazing flames, they all stopped panicking. The flames looked like they were baring their fangs and brandishing their claws, burning the earth. But in reality, it did not affect them at all. On the contrary, after coming into contact with the flames, they felt as if their souls had been purified. However, looking at the heaven realm, when it came into contact with the flames, it was quickly engulfed by the flames and turned into thick black smoke. Ah! Blood-curdling screams rang out one after another. After the fire burned, the witchcraft evil aura released by the black shadow was also instantly devoured. The girl stood on the vermilion bird's back, her clear voice echoing throughout the entire battlefield. This is the vermilion bird's raging flames. It can purify all darkness in the world, and those who have evil energy or yin energy in their bodies will be purified by the raging flames. Therefore, in the land domain, those who had not come into contact with the netherworld palace would not be engulfed by the flames. As for the heaven realm, especially the Rin family's forces, they had long been assimilated by the palace of abyss. Naturally, it would be incinerated by the blazing flames and burned to ashes. The black shadow was removed. The divine beast had appeared. This was a great encouragement to the land. Clap, 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 a burst of applause was extremely abrupt in the tense battlefield. The screams from the heaven realm were incessant. A black figure slowly appeared from the heaven realm. That person was completely standing in the air. Thick profound yin qi gathered under his feet, lifting that person into the air. A black robe was fluttering under the hurricane. That person's height happened to be at the same level as Yi Qing Luo. That person stroked his palm lightly, his tone was cold and teasing. You are indeed the imperial madam, my most trusted toy, so easily destroyed. That voice was extremely cold. Yi Qing Luo only felt a chill from the top of her head when she heard it. Her pupils shrank slightly. She didn't know if it was an illusion. She felt that voice was extremely familiar. Chapter 4707. The two of them stood face to face. Both of their auras surged, as though it was gathering a terrifying profound glow. Whoever made the first move would cause the entire battlefield to descend into a state of destruction. The appearance of the black-robed man made the battlefield stop for a few breaths' time. Following that, they started to fight again. But the Earth Realm's people couldn't help but pay attention to the sudden appearance of the black-robed man. What was his identity? Whereas for the Heaven Realm side, when they saw the black-robed man, their faces revealed a respectful and fearful expression. Bai Ming Lu noticed the two people who were fighting against each other as her expression frowned. Who is that black-robed man? To be able to go against Madame Qing Luo, his status in the Heaven Realm shouldn't be low. Ni Ruopan spoke in a deep voice. Look at the Heaven Realm's people, the way they look at that person. Something is obviously not right. Bai Ming Lu suppressed her voice as she solemnly reminded the rest of the world group, everyone must be careful and protect yourselves. You must not become Qing Luo's stumbling block. Yes. The world group shouted in unison. Their tone was sonorous and filled with confidence. Shadow, what's the matter? Qiao Yinyan stood beside Mo Yuying as he saw the little girl looking towards the horizon, not moving at all as he asked. Although others couldn't see any change in Mo Yuying's expression. But from Mo Yuying's emotions, he could feel what she wanted to express. For example now. Mo Yuying's emotions were congealed. As though, she knew that black-robed man. Very troublesome. Mo Yuying retracted her gaze as she spoke in an icy cold tone. Qing Luo might not be able to defeat him. Qiao Yinyan was stunned, even all Luo can't defeat that person. Compared to the last time he met Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo's ability had already improved by leaps and bounds. The current Yi Qing Luo, even if she didn't release her profound energy. It was clear to everyone. Yi Qing Luo's current ability was very strong. At least, it was above him. The minute Yi Qing Luo appeared, she easily killed that black shadow monster. But Mo Yuying said. Yi Qing Luo couldn't defeat that black-robed man. Then, that black-robed man. Just how strong was he? Mo Yinyan's gaze was calm as she spoke calmly. She can't defeat him to defeat him. Qiao Yinyan didn't understand what she meant. All the profound practitioners on the battlefield thought about it. The two people hovering in the air had already begun to attack at the same time, testing each other out. Yi Qing Luo's speed was very fast, with the intention of probing. In addition, she looked at the black-robed man in front of her. He could vaguely feel that familiar feeling. In his mind, he kept searching. Who was this person? The black-robed man did not use his full strength. The two clasped their palms together. Chapter 4708. Yi Qing Luo's pupils congealed, only feeling that the black-robed man's words concealed some deep meaning. She frowned. You know me. He knew that her profound rank was rising very quickly. He must have a clear understanding of her strength. That was why he was able to see the trend of her advancement after exchanging a single blow. The black-robed man cackled evilly. You can't even recognize my voice. That really makes me sad. The man sighed faintly. It was a sigh. A chill that made one's hair stand on end. Ah! Suddenly, a blood-curdling scream came from below. Immediately after, an uproar erupted in the land domain. What is this? What has entered my body? Saving me is a goo worm, a goo worm. Countless profound practitioners began to flee in all directions. The ground was densely packed with black shadows, scurrying around in the crowd. They were tiny, venomous insects. Witchcraft Yi Qing Luo's pupils congealed as her gaze swiftly swept across the surroundings. Witchcraft, the witch elder is nearby following the aura of witchcraft. Yi Qing Luo immediately sensed that in the heaven realm, at the corner of the crowd, two black figures were carrying a large basin and pouring something onto the battlefield. Inside the basin, numerous goo worms crawled out. It quickly invaded the entire battlefield. Most shocking of all, that goo worm's original target was the people on the land domain side. While the profound practitioners of the earth realm were fleeing in a frenzy, and began to make no distinction between friend and foe, not a single profound practitioner from the heaven realm was spared. Screams immediately resounded throughout the battlefield. This scene made Yi Qing Luo's eyes instantly darkened, as a cold glint appeared in her long and narrow charming eyes. She glared at the black-robed man. What are you doing? If the black-robed man's target was the earth domain, then, why can't witchcraft distinguish between friend and foe? Not only would the profound practitioners in the earth domain become beast-like puppets, but the heaven domain would also not be spared. Didn't the heaven realm also suffer heavy losses? The black-robed man had purposely said those words to her just to distract her. Thus, Elder Wu had the chance to release the voodoo goo. Yiqing Luo had personally witnessed the effects of these witchcraft spells. This was practically making the heaven and earth realms suffer. Are doomed to eternal damnation. Yiqing Luo's pupils went into a blank as she suddenly understood something. Your secluded darkness palace's aim, right from the start, is to deplete the heaven and earth realms' power, so as to unify the two realms. Ha ha ha, now that you know, it's not too late. The black-robed man laughed sinisterly. The goal of Gloomy Palace was to unify the two worlds from the start. Now, with the Ren family as the leader, they gathered the forces of the heaven realm and invaded the earth realm. Even if the invasion was successful. Ha ha ha, now that you know, it's not too late. The black-robed man laughed sinisterly. The goal of Gloomy Palace was to unify the two worlds from the start. Now, with the Ren family as the leader, they gathered the forces of the heaven realm and invaded the earth realm. Even if the invasion was successful. Ha ha ha, now that you know, it's not too late. The black-robed man laughed sinisterly. The goal of Gloomy Palace was to unify the two worlds from the start. Now, with the Ren family as the leader, they gathered the forces of the heaven realm and invaded the earth realm. Even if the invasion was successful. Ha ha ha, now that you know, it's not too late. The black-robed man laughed sinisterly. The goal of Gloomy Palace was to unify the two worlds from the start. Now, with the Ren family as the leader, they gathered the forces of the heaven realm and invaded the earth realm. Even if the invasion was successful. End of this chapter. Viewing the starting lineup. Zoe Shin Chapter section. Please go to Tang Shop, mobile address. Chapter 4709. Yiqing Luo lowered her eyes as she looked at the bloodbath on the battlefield. Her expression was cold as she looked at the black-robed man. The chill in her eyes shot out. She clenched her slender fingers and temporarily stopped tangling with the black-robed man as she commanded the scarlet flame to spit out raging flames. The raging flames had a purifying effect. As long as it was tainted with the evil qi of the Nether Palace or the witchcraft evil qi, it would be purified. The raging flames burned the ground. Those cultivators from both sides who were corroded by the goo worms were instantly burnt into ashes. Wails and screams rang out one after another. The goo worms on the ground also stopped wriggling under the burning of the fire. It also gave the other cultivators who had not been corroded by the goo worms a chance to catch their breath. Ha! The black-robed man laughed softly when he saw this. Do you think this can stop me? The black-robed man didn't take the opportunity to approach her. Instead, he calmly floated in the air and stepped on the mysterious yin qi that had gathered. His sleeves moved. A blue figure suddenly flew out from the heaven realm and was sucked into the black-robed man's palm. The black-robed man lifted that person up as his lips curled into a cold and sinister arc. Yiqing Luo, I know your weakness too well, now. Can you still continue to let your scarlet flame release its raging flames without any scruples? That figure that was lifted up high was reflected in Yiqing Luo's eyes. The action of commanding the scarlet flame to spit out raging flames suddenly stopped. Her eyes widened as the veins on her forehead popped out. Ziqing. The person who was held in the black-robed man's hand was Tong Ziqing. She was in a sorry state and was riddled with injuries as she hung in the black-robed man's hand. There was also blood dripping down from her fingertips. What made Yiqing Luo's eyes widen as she bared her teeth in anger was Tong Ziqing's current state was like those beast puppets who were controlled by witchcraft. No. It was different. Those cultivators who were corroded by witchcraft only had endless killing and bloodthirst in their eyes. They were like wild beasts. As for Tong Ziqing, although her eyes were filled with a thick bloodthirsty aura, but her actions didn't look like she had transformed into a beast. But Tong Ziqing could feel the power from the witchcraft. If the raging flames continued to burn, the black-robed man threw Tong Ziqing into the fire. Tong Ziqing would also be burnt to ashes. Damn it. Yiqing Luo stopped the scarlet flame as her face turned slightly pale. She gritted her teeth and looked at the black-robed man. Release Ziqing. Ziqing followed Zhu Wuxin and disappeared. Yiqing Luo could more or less guess that Tong Ziqing could possibly be made use of by the secluded palace. However, there was still some hope in his heart. Unexpectedly, the secluded darkness palace finally caught Tong Ziqing. The blazing flames were extinguished, and the witchcraft and goo worms crawled around wantonly again. On the battlefield, screams rang out incessantly, "Madam D. Help! Help! Madam, save us, we don't want to die. Monarch Madam, you can't kill all of us for a woman." Those people were begging for help in panic. To deal with these witchcraft goo worms, only Yiqing Luo's battle pet could do so. However, no matter how much they screamed at the top of their lungs, Yiqing Luo wasn't moved at all. Her icy cold eyes were fixated on the black-robed man without blinking. She was unable to ignore Tong Ziqing's life and death. Tong Ziqing was her brother. Everyone in the world group looked at Tong Ziqing and Yiqing Luo with complicated feelings. The world and righteousness, two difficult choices. No matter which side they chose, their hearts would be uneasy. Ha ha ha. Yiqing Luo, your weakness is that you are too easily controlled by others. The black-robed man looked at the miserable screams and curses below, looking at the young lady's solemn and cold look, as he couldn't help but laughed out loudly. Chapter 47:10. Knowing your weakness, it will be easier to target you. The black-robed man threw the lady in his hands towards Yiqing Luo's direction. That blue figure was like a paper kite with a broken string, as it fell down loosely. Yiqing Luo subconsciously wanted to catch it. But the minute she got close, that weak and battered-looking lady suddenly raised her head. A pair of vicious and savage eyes like a wild beast, making Yiqing Luo's heart suddenly felt as though it was being strangled by someone. Because of the shock, she had yet to regain her senses. Qi Yan's sharp mouth had already bit her collar as he threw her onto his back and suddenly flew towards the sky. Tong Ziqing's attack hit thin air. A loud bam was heard. The entire ground cracked open as a huge black hole was formed. If Qi Yan's actions were slightly delayed by a moment, Yiqing Luo was either dead or crippled now. That huge black hole made the world group's expressions change greatly as all of their gazes towards Tong Ziqing were filled with disbelief. Tong Ziqing actually laid her hands on Yiqing Luo. Was Tong Ziqing crazy? Yiqing Luo, who had fallen onto Qi Yan's back, her fair fingers clenched tightly into a ball. Her eyes shot out a biting cold frost. Secluded palace wasn't one long yunjian enough. Now they wanted to use Tong Ziqing to repeat the same trick. Was this because they had found out her weakness? It was modified within half an hour. Knowing your weakness makes it easier to target you. The black-robed man threw the lady in his hands towards Yiqing Luo's direction. That blue figure was like a paper kite with a broken string as it fell down loosely. Yiqing Luo subconsciously wanted to catch it. But the minute she got close, that weak and battered-looking lady suddenly raised her head. A pair of vicious and savage eyes like a wild beast, making Yiqing Luo's heart suddenly felt as though it was being strangled by someone. As she was shocked, she had yet to regain her senses. Qi Yan's sharp mouth had already bit her collar as he threw her onto his back and suddenly flew up into the sky. Tong Ziqing's attack hit thin air. A loud bam was heard. The entire ground suddenly split open as a huge black hole was formed. If Qi Yan's actions were slightly delayed, he was afraid that if Yiqing Luo didn't die, she would be crippled. That enormous black hole caused the world group's faces to change drastically as all of their gazes towards Tong Ziqing were filled with disbelief. Tong Ziqing actually laid her hands on Yiqing Luo. Is Tong Ziqing crazy? Yiqing Luo, who had fallen on Qi Yan's back, clenched her delicate 5 fingers tightly. A piercingly cold light shot out from his eyes. Abyssal Palacia sent one long Yun Zhan enough. Now, he still wanted to use Tong Ziqing, repeating the same old trick. Was he taking advantage of her weakness? Now that I know your weakness, it will be easier to target you. The black-robed man threw the lady in his hand towards Yiqing Luo's direction. That blue figure, like a kite with a broken string, fell down loosely. Yiqing Luo subconsciously wanted to take it. But as soon as he got closer, the weak and battered woman suddenly raised her head. A pair of eyes like those of a wild beast. It made Yiqing Luo's heart suddenly felt as though it was being strangled by someone. As she was shocked, she still hadn't regained her senses. Qi Yan's sharp mouth had already bit her collar as he threw her onto his back and suddenly flew up into the sky. Tong Ziqing's attack hit thin air. A loud bam was heard. The entire ground suddenly split open as a huge black hole was formed. This chapter end viewing first episode Zue new chapter section please arrive Tang Ku Company, mobile address. Chapter 47:11. The black-robed man snorted coldly and looked up at the young lady. Yiqing Luo, don't play tricks in front of me, your moves are useless in front of me. Her words had yet to finish. The black-robed man suddenly felt a chill on his face. The black cloak covering his head was torn apart in a split second. The black-robed man's words came to an abrupt halt. The expression on his face suddenly froze on his face. Since you are so powerful, why hide in front of me, why not? Let me see, who exactly are you, a mouse hiding in the dark? The young lady's icy cold voice sounded quietly. The black-robed man's body stiffened. Thick black chi spread out from his body. No. Yiqing Luo's attack earlier was not to take the opportunity to kill him. Her real target was the black cloak on his head. When the glower flame fan attacked him, she was just deliberately attracting his attention. But in fact, the glower flame fan had already seized the opportunity and completely shattered his black cloak. Profound waves rippled. The strong wind whistled. The black cloak shredded and spread in the sky. The face under the black robe was reflected in Yiqing Luo's pupils. The expression on Yiqing Luo's face, slowly stiffened, bit by bit stunned, bit by bit, turned into an unbelievable shock. The surroundings seemed to be still. Only she and the black-robed man's 4 eyes met, staring at each other in a daze. Yiqing Luo didn't know how to describe her current feelings. Her heart kept tightening, somewhat suffocating. After a long time, her eyelashes trembled slightly. Her pink lips moved slightly but she couldn't spit out a word. I was careless. The black-robed man slowly raised his hand and touched his face as he snorted lightly. But there was no panic or other emotions from being recognized. That pair of deep black eyes seemed to be quenched with ice as he looked at her mockingly. Why, didn't you want to see who I am? Now that your wish has been fulfilled, your expression doesn't look happy. Yiqing Luo still didn't speak. Her eyes stared at the person in front of her. Her throat tightened. She wanted to speak but couldn't say a word. She had never thought the black-robed man in front of him was actually him. When the world group saw the true face of the black-robed man, they were so shocked that they could not close their mouths. They couldn't believe their eyes. Aren't you the young master of Wind Valley sect, Gu Jingyu? Why are you here? There are rumors in the Nirvana realm that the young sect master of the Wind Valley sect has disappeared. So he joined the Dark Nether Palace. What's going on? Why would the young master of the Wind Valley sect appear in the heaven realm? Everyone in the world group had seen this black-robed man before. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't connect the black-robed man with the man who was as gentle as jade. The world group was in an uproar. Yiqing Luo took some time before she slowly found back her voice. Her eyes darkened and her voice tightened. Why, is it you? From the moment he saw the black-robed man, he felt an indescribable sense of familiarity. She was also suspicious of the black-robed man calling himself this empress. But she had never linked this man in front of her with Gu Jingyu. Because the Gu Jingyu she knew would absolutely not be so cold and emotionless, flamboyant and arrogant. Absolutely not. So hateful. Why can't it be this empress? The black-robed man. Who was Gu Jingyu? His thin lips curled upwards as he gave a ridiculing smile. Just because you feel that this empress likes you, so it can't be this empress. Chapter 47:12. I don't mean it in that way. Yiqing Luo's slender fingers clenched tightly. I just can't believe that the Gu Jingyu in my memory who had always maintained his kind nature even though he was in the Palace of Gloom, had turned into such a state. The girl's voice trembled slightly. He looked at the familiar face in front of him. His heart felt as if it was being tightly gripped by someone. Except for Dmo Xian. She had never thought that she could act unscrupulously just because someone liked her. Gu Jingyu was the palace master of the Dark Palace on the surface. But he had never really done anything cruel and ruthless. Even it was related to her. He would do everything he could to protect her from any harm. But Gu Jingyu was different. His eyes were filled with ruthlessness and indifference. It was as if all life in the world was not worth mentioning in his eyes. Even more so the way he looked at her was also mocking and cold. The tenderness she once had was nowhere to be seen. It wasn't that she wanted Gu Jingyu to be gentle to her. This Gu Jingyu was too unfamiliar. Unfamiliar, Yiqing Luo almost felt that this Gu Jingyu was an impostor sent by the secluded palace. Ha ha ha, kind. When Gu Jingyu heard Yiqing Luo's choice of words, she laughed exaggeratedly. Yiqing Luo, do you have some misunderstanding towards me? I'm the mistress of secluded Darkness Palace and you're telling me that you're kind, what a joke. Yiqing Luo pursed her pink lips tightly, as her charming eyes gazed deeply at Gu Jingyu's face which was laughing wildly, as her tone was firm and calm. Right, kind. The Gu Jingyu I know is still kind even though he is the palace master of the Netherworld Palace. Her gaze gradually turned cold. So, who are you? Yiqing Luo's suspicions didn't make Gu Jingyu have too much of a change in his emotions. He merely curled his thin lips into a mischievous smile that seemed to carry a hint of mockery. What? Could it be that you're using this method to make yourself feel better? I don't care what you think. Anyway, all of you, except for you, will die here today. The evil aura around Gu Jingyu's body seemed to have dyed his gentle jade-like face a little distorted. His words and tone were cold and treacherous. He totally didn't care who Yiqing Luo treated him as. He was so magnanimous and unbridled. It made Yiqing Luo's heart feel suffocated for a moment. In fact, she really couldn't prove that the Gu Jingyu opposite her was fake. Especially when she saw his calm expression, which didn't change at all. Yiqing Luo started to doubt if her guess was right or not. Gu Jingyu was the palace master of the Dark Palace on the surface. How could the Palace of Darkness let someone pretend to be the palace master on the surface? The risk was too great. So, the person in front of him was really Gu Jingyu. Ming not long ago. In order to save her, Gu Jingyu specially came to save her while the people behind the Palace of Darkness were busy. Why, all of a sudden, become like this? This was what Gu Jingyu had said at that time. Will we be strangers when we meet again? To Gu Jingyu, was she just a target that the Palace of Gloom wanted to capture? He could do it. But now, when it was her turn, she couldn't bear to do it. After all, Gu Jingyu had helped her countless times as the palace master of the Dark Palace. The last time when she was plotted against by the Palace of Gloom, the evil aura which she was inflicted with almost cost her life, it was Gu Jingyu who risked his life to save her. If she could really bear to do it, wouldn't she be too ungrateful? This chapter end viewing first episode Zue new chapter section please arrive Tang Ku shop, mobile address. Chapter 47:13. Yiqing Luo, based on your character, after knowing this palace's real identity, you definitely can't bear to make a move on this palace, right? Gu Jingyu's tone was filled with ridicule. That pair of eyes, which were no longer as gentle as before, was filled with malevolence as a faint cold arc appeared. His sinister lips curled upwards as he smiled eerily. Then, this palace won't stand on ceremony. His words had just ended. He had already turned into an arrow which had left the bow as he brought along a dense black evil qi as he attacked towards Yiqing Luo. The dense black evil qi was mixed with profound waves. Yiqing Luo's pupils contracted. She could clearly feel just how strong the profound energy which was heading towards her was. It was filled with murderous intent. Apparently, was going to deal a vicious blow to her. Without the slightest bit of mercy. Until Gu Jingyu's attack was merely 2 steps away from Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo then clenched her glower flame fan tightly as she swept up numerous waves as she blocked in front of her. Gu Jingyu's attack collided with the glower flame fan's waves. A wave of earth quaked as shattered stones flew everywhere. The entire battlefield was filled with a rumbling, buzzing sound because of this strong qi wave collision. Yiqing Luo stood on the back of the scarlet flame as she retreated 2 steps and raised her eyes to look at him. The rippling emotions beneath her eyes were extremely complicated. Gu Jingyu tilted his head as his attack missed. A sinister cold smile blossomed on his lips. Looks like you're not as loyal as I imagined. This palace made a move on you and you actually retaliated. Are you worthy of everything that this palace had once done for you? Yiqing Luo's heart felt as though it had been punched fiercely by something. Her gaze turned gloomier and gloomier. Her slender fingers clenched into a fist. Ah! Suddenly a miserable shriek was heard from below. On the world group side, Mo Ying's barrier had been opened. Witchcraft worms speedily invaded the world group. Luckily everyone's reaction was agile. They swiftly evaded. And swiftly counterattacked. But they didn't notice that not too far away, a figure standing quietly by the side was attacking the world group's youngsters. Ni Ruopan acutely sensed it and speedily dashed in front of that youngster, blocking that attack. But his entire person fell onto the ground as he spat out blood. Instantly, it attracted numerous witchcraft worms as it speedily spread over. Ruopan! Quick! Hurry up and disperse those voodoo insects. Ruopan, come here. Everyone in the world group instantly rushed towards Ni Ruopan in a fluster. But how could their speed compare to the densely packed witchcraft goo? Ni Ruopan was severely injured and had nowhere to run. Looking at the dense voodoo insects crawling towards him, Lin Fan was stunned. The girl's pretty face revealed a trace of determination. She suddenly pulled out a dagger and slashed at her own neck. If she was swallowed by the voodoo worm, she would become like those monsters. She would not have her own thoughts and would even attack her brothers. However, if she died before the voodoo worm devoured her, those voodoo goo worms could no longer use her body. Ni Ruopan was unafraid of death. Don't act recklessly. Just as the dagger was about to slit her fair neck, suddenly, a bright red light shot over and knocked the dagger out of the girl's hand. At the same time, the purest flames in the world appeared around the girl. The densely packed witchcraft goo then vanished into thin air, but not too far away, a painful moan was heard. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief and speedily turned their gazes towards the direction of the voice. Yiqing Luo, who was standing on the red flame's back, was as pale as paper as her eyes were filled with pain as she looked towards that direction. Chapter 47:14. They saw that the person who originally attacked the world group's youngsters but was blocked by Nai Ruo Pan. Because of the blazing flames, she was twisting and struggling in pain. Tong Ziqing. It was Tong Ziqing. Earlier, it was because of Tong Ziqing that the world group couldn't bear to hurt Tong Ziqing, which gave Tong Ziqing the chance to break the barrier which Mo Yuing had conjured. Because of that, the scene just now happened. The world group's youngsters' hearts were heavy and complicated. They totally didn't know what kind of attitude they should use to face Tong Ziqing. That was like a wild beast, cold and bloodthirsty, without any emotions in her eyes towards their friendship. It really made those who had once gone through life and death with Tong Ziqing, worshipping Tong Ziqing as their goddess before Yiqing Luo appeared, to follow them wholeheartedly. Their hearts were in an extreme pain. But when they saw Tong Ziqing suffering from the blazing flames, that kind of pain and contortion, as though they would be burnt to ashes in the next instance. Their inner hearts were burning with anxiety and suffering. Thinking about it, Yiqing Luo's current state was absolutely not any better than them. And at this moment, there were quite a number of cultivators around who were shouting loudly, "Burn them to death. Don't stop this flame. This flame is used to deal with their schemes. Imperial Madam, that lady is obviously not an ordinary person. Even if you show her mercy, she won't be able to come back. Why not settle her as soon as possible, in case you guys get hurt?" There were some cultivators who were quick-witted as they tried to reason and move them emotionally, "Imperial Madam, and everyone. We know it's really difficult for you to make such a decision. But have you ever thought that if that lady was conscious, would she be willing to live like this, to hurt you guys?" Needless to say, this sentence stabbed right into the world group's hearts. If it was any of them, they would absolutely not be willing to become enemies with their own brothers. They would rather die before they were poisoned by the goo. And they would absolutely not be willing to become a monster who hurt their own brothers. Just like earlier. Ni Ruo Pan's decision. If it was any one of them, they would also choose the same. So, Tong Ziqing was the same. If Tong Ziqing was conscious now, seeing so many of her brothers being hurt, her heart would definitely be in even more pain than them right now. Gloomy Palace. Everyone in the world group clenched their fists tightly as a venomous look surfaced in their eyes. It was all because of the dark Nether Palace, playing with their sincerity and true feelings. If they couldn't destroy the Palace of Darkness, what a waste of humanity. At this moment, an unwavering goal emerged in the hearts of the young boys and girls. Their words were heard by Yiqing Luo. Chapter 47:15. Gu Jingyu's cold laughter was extremely clear in his ears, as though it had penetrated through Yiqing Luo's head, which was about to explode. It made her emotions even more chaotic. A pair of long and coquettish eyes were covered with a scarlet-red glow. Wisps of profound energy encircled the young lady's body, as though the profound wave was overflowing from her body. It was boiling. Gu Jingyu's attack was very fast. But, under Gu Jingyu's attack, Yiqing Luo's mind was still very fast, like a movie playback. The scenes flashed past the first time she met Gu Jingyu, after he became the palace lord of secluded Darkness Palace. All sorts of scenes. Finally, it stopped on the man's handsome face, giving her a warm smile. "From today onwards, there's no more connection between you and me. I'm using this method to force myself to give up. If you can't be with me, then don't give me any hope. Yiqing Luo, I don't want you to be soft-hearted towards me, to show mercy to me." Every word reverberated in her mind. Yiqing Luo's head was swollen as she moaned in pain. Her slender hand pressed against her head. In her mind, she seemed to see a white light, constantly attacking her emotions. And in front of her, Gu Jingyu's attack was already nearing her face. She subconsciously raised the feather fan in her hand. The profound wave was like a huge dragon, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws as it charged towards Gu Jingyu. Bam! The deafening profound wave shook and the battlefield collapsed once again. Gu Jingyu didn't expect Yiqing Luo to really retaliate. He couldn't avoid it in time. He was directly sent flying by that profound wave. The thick, black, eviline energy was defeated. The intense pain made his chest stuffy as he spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. Gu Jingyu half propped himself up as he raised his head, looking at the red-robed figure standing on the back of the scarlet flame. He slowly raised his hand and wiped off the blood stains on his lips. The corners of his lips curled into a sinister sneer. Finally, you're willing to take action against me. He slowly stood up. His tall and slender figure swayed a little. But he quickly steadied himself. His face was filled with ridicule. Looks like you've made up your mind. The girl did not answer his question. He stood on Qi Yan's back with a cold expression on his face. Boundless profound ripples lingered around her body, making her seem even more otherworldly, like a celestial maiden that was out of reach. She lowered her eyes. He looked down at Gu Jingyu. There was not the slightest fluctuation in her charming eyes. Gu Jingyu's heart suddenly skipped a beat. No, that's not right. This was not Yiqing Luo. How could Yiqing Luo possibly reveal such an expression towards him? Just now, she still had a pained expression on her face, unable to make a decision. Just, what was going on? Gu Jingyu. Chapter 47:16. The current Yiqing Luo looked too strange. Like a god who looked down on all living beings. Looking down on the world. The bright and beautiful red dress danced wildly in the strong wind. It accentuated the young lady's exquisite brows which sunk into astonishment. Even the world group's hearts were pounding wildly from the young lady's aura. You. Gu Jingyu also realized the coldness and indifference in the young lady's tone. His brows creased tightly. An unfamiliar emotion suddenly arose in his heart. As though someone was clutching his heart tightly. It made him feel a suffocating heavy feeling. Could it be that Yiqing Luo had done something to him? Why did he feel so uncomfortable looking at the young lady's calm and indifferent look? Gu Jingyu's breathing congealed. He forced himself to calm down. He gazed at the young lady's enchanting profound light. As well as that cold and resolute attitude. As though he had thought of something. That seemingly gentle, yet sinister face suddenly laughed. Following that, she laughed sinisterly. I've not expected that this empress can actually force you to lose your rationality. Does this mean that this empress actually holds an important position in your heart? Lost her rationality. The world group's brows creased tightly as they stared at Gu Jingyu and asked sternly, what do you mean by this? Ha ha ha, your Madame Qing Luo, because of the dilemma between the world and righteousness, was unable to make a choice. Hence the surging profound energy in her body caused her to collapse. Gu Jingyu didn't hide anything as his gloomy voice was filled with an eerie smile as he explained, she's indeed a rare genius. Even under such a situation, she didn't lose control of her profound energy, causing her meridians to break down. On the contrary, it prompted her to advance. Advancement. The world group's expressions turned uglier by the minute. Advancement was a good thing. But hearing Gu Jingyu's meaning. Apparently, Yiqing Luo's advancement this time round was absolutely not for any benefits. Furthermore, what was the loss of control and losing her rationality that Gu Jingyu mentioned? Although the current Yiqing Luo looked a little strange. But, it was still very normal. Gu Jingyu's eyes were gloomy as he said word by word, as a cultivator, you should be very clear about profound great advancement. After the advancement, you need to expend energy to merge the advanced profound energy with your body. But Yi Qing Luo's sudden advancement was due to the stimulation. And under the stimulation, I didn't have any time to adjust the power after my advancement, nor did I have the time to merge with the surging Xian energy in my body. Say, what do you think will be the final result after the body is filled to the brim with endless energy? At this moment, it wasn't only the world group whose faces were pale. Even those cultivators on the battlefield had their faces turned pale, as the gazes they shot towards Yi Qing Luo were filled with terror and terror. This is the consequence. It was just as Gu Jingyu had said. Ordinary profound practitioners would have their tendons and meridians severed, their bodies exploding, and they would die. Or worse, qi deviation and loss of sanity if Yi Qing Luo went into qi deviation. That's indifference. Wouldn't they have one more powerful opponent? The expressions of the world group turned ugly. No wonder Gu Jingyu patiently explained to them. They wanted to throw the morale of their troops into chaos. The current Yi Qing Luo, I'm afraid it's her willpower that is supporting her. Gu Jingyu's lips curled into an evil smile as he slowly raised his hand. The sinister qi condensed in his palm. It also made the man's clear face look a little sinister and vicious. This chapter end viewing starting event Zue new chapter section please arrive Tang Ku shop, mobile address. Chapter 47:17. Willpower. What did Gu Jingyu's words mean? The world group looked at Yi Qing Luo worriedly as their eyes were filled with worry. A flat and emotionless voice slowly rang. Once Qing Luo's willpower crumbles, Qing Luo will be easily swallowed by the power after the advancement. Everyone turned to the source of the voice. Only to see a young lady dressed in pink dumpling, expressionlessly saying, Qing Luo is in danger. Then what should we do? The world group immediately asked. After Long Yunzhan and Tong Ziqing were restricted by the Dark Nether Palace. Mo Yuing was the leader of the world group. Because, ever since they came to the Earth domain, although Mo Yuing was expressionless. But she looked like she knew everything. She knew everything about the Earth domain. Furthermore, she had been the commander of the battle between the heaven and the earth realms. Although Mo Ying's presence was usually very low. It was as if he couldn't even see where she was. But at every critical moment, Mo Ying would always be able to shoulder the burden alone. We can't agitate Qing Luo. Mo Ying slightly narrowed her emotionless eyes. Think of a way to lead everyone away from the battlefield. With Zi Qing here, there's no way to deal with those witchcraft insects. The world group all looked towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. Immediately after, their eyes turned solemn, and the flames around their bodies surged. Yes. After arranging everyone in the world group, Mo Ying raised her eyes and looked at the young girl whose clothes were fluttering in the wind. An extremely faint light flashed across his empty and lifeless eyes. She lifted her feet and walked towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. He had yet to move. A large palm grabbed his wrist. What are you doing? Mo Ying looked at the palm and slowly raised her head. She looked at him expressionlessly. Let go. Qiao Yinyan frowned and said worriedly, no, it's too dangerous. Mo Ying's big empty eyes revealed a bit of coldness. Let go. I know you're very strong, but it's clearly not at a stage where you can interfere. Qiao Yinyan refused to let go. Go with them and lead everyone away from the battlefield. During the conversation, Gu Jingyu seemed to have seen through the world group's intentions. He directly launched an attack towards Yi Qing Luo. As long as he could force Yi Qing Luo's profound waves into a mess. Yi Qing Luo didn't bother about the situation on the battlefield at all. Those voodoo goo could quickly devour everyone on the battlefield. Using these powerful profound practitioners as witchcraft puppets. It was an army that was undefeatable and invincible. As for Yi Qing Luo, under such circumstances, she was promoted. Sooner or later, it would collapse. The ruthless coldness in Gu Jingyu's eyes intensified, and his attacks were also ruthless, specifically targeting Yi Qing Luo's vital points. Yi Qing Luo's expression was as cold as water, and there wasn't even a single ripple in her eyes. Her beautiful face seemed to be covered with a layer of frost. As for Gu Jingyu's attack, he didn't show any mercy and fought back directly. The two of them exchanged blows, causing the earth to quake and the mountains to shake. The Xian wave almost shattered the entire battlefield. As for those Gu people who were swallowed by the witchcraft Gu, after the flames disappeared, they started to attack wantonly. Mo Yuing spoke again, "Let go. Don't go over there." Qiao Yinyan was a little tired. Why didn't his wife listen to him? His former wife was so adorable. Qing Luo is in danger. Mo Ying's gaze was emotionless, without much emotions. "I'll be fine. Then I'll go with you." Qiao Yinyan knew that he couldn't win Mo Yuing in an argument, so he made the final compromise. End of this chapter. Chapter 47:18. Mo Ying's empty gaze fell onto Qiao Yinyan. After a few breaths, she said indifferently, "Up to you." Qiao Yinyan finally released her wrist. The pink dumpling girl held Qiao Yinyan's hand in reverse. Without waiting for Qiao Yinyan's heartbeat to accelerate, he was pulled by Mo Yuing and was dragged to the edge of the sky. Stepping over the dense witchcraft worms on the ground, he headed straight towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. Yi Qing Luo's movements were as smooth as flowing water. The glower flame fan on her fingertips kept sweeping in astonishing arc, as though it was gathering on her fingertips, swallowing everything around it. After more than 10 moves, Gu Jingyu was obviously at a disadvantage. No matter how he used words to provoke Yi Qing Luo, Yi Qing Luo was expressionless as she responded and counterattacked. There was no fluctuation of emotions at all. Not affected at all. After Gu Jingyu was sent flying, he stabilized his footsteps and frowned at the young lady in front of him. "This is what you hoped for, isn't it?" The young lady opened up her arms, like a fairy, as she landed on the ground. Her voice was cold and clear on the battlefield where the profound waves rumbled. Gu Jingyu's heart thumped fiercely, gazing at the young lady's pair of calm eyes. His brows knitted even tighter, as there was some fluctuation in his eyes. The young lady spoke indifferently, "You said it yourself, the next time we meet we'll be strangers, isn't it? Why are you looking at me in this way?" Her pink lips curled slightly, peerlessly beautiful. The majestic profound wave spread. However, the girl's smile seemed to be able to make everything around her lose its splendor. Not knowing why, Gu Jingyu felt as though his heart was pierced by numerous needles, ruthlessly. There was some kind of emotion surging in his chest. Why, when facing Yi Qing Luo, would he have such a feeling? Gu Jingyu's breathing became hurried. The young lady walked over slowly. The alluring red glow under her feet spread all the way. It formed an invisible shield around her, until the young lady stopped in front of Gu Jingyu. Gu Jingyu seemed to have suddenly regained his senses, as his warm black eyes stared at Yi Qing Luo. Suddenly, he took a step back. I will not be lenient towards you." The young lady raised her hand slightly. That fiery red fan on the young lady's fair fingertips became even more brilliant. "Ah! Ugh!" Gu Jingyu stared at the glowing flame fan in her hand and quickly tried to dodge it. But in the next instant, a dense evil yin aura emerged from the man's feet. In an instant, the man's entire body was enveloped in black qi. The man groaned in pain, his body contorting. Yi Qing Luo's attack paused momentarily. Her slender, white fingers reached out toward the thick black gas. Just as he moved, her arm was hugged by a small hand. A petite figure fell into the girl's arms. Chapter 47:19. She knew what Ewing meant. Yes, she could tell. She could tell that this Gu Jingyu had a problem. Ah! Woo-woo! Muffled groans could be heard coming from within the thick, black, evil energy. Suddenly, the profound yin qi started to spread. With a bang, the profound waves exploded in the surrounding air. Like a bomb, it exploded in the entire battlefield. A burst of earth quaked, causing those cultivators who were trying to escape from the battlefield to scream in terror. And under this powerful explosion, the three people beside Yi Qing Luo seemed to be isolated from the explosion. Their bodies were surrounded by a barrier that emitted a bright red light. It blocked the thick, black, and evil energy. It also blocked the shock waves from the explosion. Through the barrier, Yi Qing Luo could clearly see that after the black qi dissipated, a figure was slowly revealed. His black robe was fluttering in the strong wind. His jet-black hair danced wildly on his shoulders. Between his brows, there was a thick sinister qi. His eyes were filled with a thick sinister qi. He looked like a devil who had crawled out from hell, attempting to kill everything in the world. On him, Yi Qing Luo could no longer see that kind of feeling that the man once had. Was like jade, unparalleled in the world. Yi Qing Luo. Perhaps it was because of the pity in Yi Qing Luo's gaze, as though she was thinking of someone through him, that attracted Gu Jingyu's attention. The man's hoarse and sinister voice seemed to be cut by a saw, as it was unusually sharp and ear-piercing. "You're actually still conscious." Gu Jingyu was very astonished. According to his analysis, shouldn't Yi Qing Luo's consciousness have been controlled by the chaotic profound energy? Why was she still conscious? Yi Qing Luo's pink lips curled slightly, the smile on the arc was extremely shallow. "Gu Jingyu, since you understand me so well, how would you not know that my acceptance and adaptability is different from others?" She indeed, from the start. It was because of the dilemma, which stimulated the profound energy which was suppressed in her body. She broke through the advancement barrier in one fell swoop and was able to advance a grade. Because of her unstable emotions, the profound energy in her body surged and broke through her consciousness. He almost lost control. But fortunately, very quickly, she gained control of part of the sovereignty. As for the other part, it could be said that she deliberately did not plunder it. Because she had to let her heart cool down. He could not be influenced by the Abyss Palace. Why did she have to choose between the so-called world and brotherhood? Yet, she wanted both. Secluded Darkness Palace's scheme this time round is indeed very well planned. Yi Qing Luo gave a faint smile as her long and narrow eyes seemed to be circulating with a chilly cold glint. The devouring flame fanned at her fingertips. Chapter 47:20. Because Gu Jingyu's current existence. Just to lead the Palace of Darkness to deal with her. Such an arrangement from the Palace of Darkness. They were simply determined to make use of the feelings that she cared about the most, forcing her to go into qi deviation. If her willpower wasn't strong enough. At Long Yunzhan's betrayal, Tong Ziqing was controlled by witchcraft to take action against the world group. Gu Jingyu kept on saying that he owed him and wanted to repay him. Under such circumstances, forcefully advancing would cause the profound energy to be in a mess. The consequence would only be qi deviation. This was the motive of the Palace of Darkness. Yi Qing Luo's fair fingertips gently pressed against the azure dew bracelet on her wrist. Her pink lips curled up into an extremely shallow arc luckily. Old man Tsang woke her up at the critical juncture. Luckily, her willpower was strong enough. Then she avoided the backlash from the profound energy and the consequence of going into chi deviation. The Palace of Darkness had probably thought that their plan would fail. But they had never expected that Gu Jingyu, as the puppet of the Palace of Darkness, would have some strange actions because of Yi Qing Luo's words. Earlier, she attempted to awaken Gu Jingyu's rationality, to call back the heart that he had lost. But the Palace of Darkness discovered it in time, forcefully suppressing all the fluctuations in Gu Jingyu's emotions. But it was because of this that Yi Qing Luo was completely certain that everything that she had guessed was true. 4 pairs of eyes met. The man's eyes, which were filled with dense black yin qi, revealed a maniacal emotion as he looked at her without blinking. Yi Qing Luo's expression didn't change as her narrow long eyes squinted slightly, revealing a chilly glint. After a moment of silence, Gu Jingyu took 2 steps forward. His tall and straight body swayed a little. Bringing along the yin qi, it drew an extremely shallow arc in the air. "You're indeed very smart." His sinister voice was filled with a treacherous cold glint. That was a kind of different from the sinister piercing voice earlier. But as though it was wrapped in frost, a voice which came from the faraway North Pole. That blurry face, which was faintly discernible in the yin qi, was revealed from time to time. Yi Qing Luo's gaze was fixated on that pair of malicious yet cold and mocking eyes. The light in her eyes flickered. His whole body was surrounded by profound waves, and his eyes became vigilant. "You are not Gu Jingyu." Yi Qing Luo took 2 steps back as she spoke in a chilly voice, "Palace of Gloom. The real Palace Lord." That look. Even the puppet Gu Jingyu didn't have it. That kind of aura. It was also not an aura that Gu Jingyu could have. The person in front of him was no longer Gu Jingyu. "Jie jie jie," the man opposite him chuckled softly. His face, which was obviously handsome but looked slightly sinister because of the black aura, revealed an extremely strange smile. "As expected of the person that I have always wanted. With just a glance, you recognized me." The smile on Gu Jingyu's face gradually deepened. It was cold and filled with pride and complacency. Yi Qing Luo's expression suddenly sunk. The hurricane danced wildly. Profound waves swept out. The 2 of them stood face to face. The dazzling light collided with the black aura. Without a sound, countless sparks had already been produced from the collision. This should be considered as. This was the first time that she and the person behind the Palace of Gloom had a real exchange of blows. Even if the other party was using Gu Jingyu's body. "Get out of his body." Yi Qing Luo opened her mouth indifferently, her voice was icy cold. Gu Jingyu raised his hand and touched his face. "This is my disciple. I have bestowed so much glory to him and he has enjoyed the things that I have bestowed, so how can he not give back?" Calm. Wonderful Book House. Chapter 47-21. Pooh. Yi Qing Luo scoffed coldly, as she looked at Gu Jingyu's gaze, filled with disgust. "What you gave him, is it really what he wants? You're merely imposing what you think on him." Yi Qing Luo's fingers slowly tightened on the glower flame fan. The bewitching red glow encircled her body. Gu Jingyu smiled sinisterly, as he didn't put Yi Qing Luo in his eyes, with an arrogant attitude. "From your tone, you seem to care a lot about this good disciple of mine." In the eyes of the person behind the scenes of the Nether Palace. Indeed, he wasn't worried that Yi Qing Luo would play any new tricks. Because, when the person behind the scenes of the Nether Palace appeared in the body of Gu Jingyu, he was already confident that victory was within his grasp. "Since you care so much about him, then why can't you choose to accept him?" Gu Jingyu laughed lowly, wave after wave, as his chest undulated. Following that, as though he was asking for an explanation for his own disciple, he looked at Yi-Ching Luo without blinking, as his tone carried a questioning tone. Do you know that he would become like this, all because thanks to me? The young lady's icy cold voice, word by word, continued what Gu Jingyu wanted to say. Gu Jingyu was slightly stunned, as his face revealed a rare surprise. Following that, he laughed lowly. Looks like you know everything. Under the situation where you know everything, you can still lay such a vicious hand on this seat's good disciple. You're really heartless. Originally I didn't know, but I just found out. Yi-Ching Luo didn't have many emotional ups and downs because of Gu Jingyu's intentional ridicule, and intentionally trying to stir up her emotions. From the start to the end, her expression was extremely calm. More than half of her consciousness, which was swallowed by the jumbled profound waves, was also slowly recovering. Yi-Ching Luo's gaze stared deeply at this familiar, yet unusually unfamiliar face. I admit, Gu Jingyu indeed did put in a lot for me. But the person who really consigned him to eternal damnation is you. Don't display in front of me how much you dote on Gu Jingyu. It will only make me feel disgusted. The young lady's brows surfaced a look of disgust. Last time, the mysterious Yin fragrance incident was planned by you. At that time, the Gu poison in Long Yunzhan's body acted up. Long Yunzhan used his long sword to bring the mysterious Yin fragrance into her body. At that time, you made a few plans, right? Yi-Ching Luo seemed to have deduced everything as the tone she used when she opened her mouth was filled with ridicule. The profound Yin fragrance should be a scheme that you set up in order to obtain Gu Jingyu. If Gu Jingyu doesn't act according to your plan, the mysterious Yin fragrance can also control me to achieve your ultimate goal. You used Zhan to poison me with the mystical Yin fragrance, and then let Gu Jingyu know about it. The mysterious Yin fragrance is a Yin poison that even I am unable to cure. Only you can. In order for me to survive, Gu Jingyu made a deal with you. When Yi-Ching Luo said this, she paused slightly. Congealing the face of Gu Jingyu in front of her, as compared to the Gu Jingyu in her memory, there was a vast difference in expression. She continued, at that time I was still thinking, why did he say such strange things when he saved me? Wanting to treat us as strangers, in exchange for saving me. Because you used his heart as the method to cure the profound Yin fragrance, in exchange. Chapter 47:22. So that was why Gu Jingyu said those words to her back then. Which was why he righteously used the excuse of saving her, in exchange for a chance for them to be strangers. He even mentioned before, when they met again, he wouldn't pity her anymore. He also reminded her that when they met again, not to believe anything he said, that he would stand on his master's side unconditionally. Actually, from that moment onwards, he already knew everything. But, for her, he had no other choice. He could only agree to his master's request. This was the real motive of the person behind the secluded palace. That person had schemed everything. Everything was interconnected. He really didn't give her any breathing space at all. Yi-Ching Luo gave a light laugh as her long and narrow eyes overflowed with a faint cold glint. That's right, everything you said is right. Gu Jingyu didn't have any intention to hide as he sneered sinisterly at her. After knowing what he had done for you, do you feel any gratitude towards him? His smile was extremely cold and sinister. His frightening eyes were filled with a thick, dark, evil aura. Once there's gratitude, then it's not too far away from love. Gu Jingyu's smile revealed some conceited complacency. In this way, this seat's obedient disciple has to thank this seat. Yi-Ching Luo's brows were as cold as water right from the start. There wasn't a single ripple on her gorgeous face because of Gu Jingyu's words. As the sinister qi around Gu Jingyu became thicker and thicker, it almost spread across the entire battlefield. Yiqing Luo's dazzling profound glow was also gradually spreading. Between the two of them, there seemed to be a silent confrontation. The people in the battlefield, under the world group's lead, gradually retreated from the battlefield. This prevented a large number of cultivators from being hurt by the two of them. But there was still a small portion of cultivators who didn't leave the battlefield in time. Instantly, they were engulfed by the two majestic profound energy on the battlefield. Those densely packed witchcraft bugs also vanished into thin air at this instance. The entire battlefield seemed to belong to the both of them. No one could interfere. Shock and astonishment corroded everyone's hearts. Shadow. N.I. Rupin's flustered voice was heard from the world group's mercenary card. You guys are still in the battlefield, are you alright? About 30 meters away from the powerful aura emitted by Yiqing Luo and Gu Jingyu, a pink ball-shaped barrier was faintly discernible. Mo Ying grabbed Xiao Yinyan's arm with one hand and held the mercenary card with the other. I'm fine. In the midst of the frenzied hurricane profound wave, the pink barrier seemed to be unaffected in the slightest. Xiao Yinyan stood behind Mo Ying in shock. He felt very complicated. He was actually protected by Mo Ying. The reason he followed his wife was to protect her. Chapter 47-23. Yeah. Mo Ying answered faintly. Mo Ying put the mercenary card into her pocket and turned to look at Xiao Yinyan. Did you hear that? Xiao Yinyan was still feeling sorry for himself. When he heard Mo Ying's words, he looked at her in confusion. Ha! Ziqing is on the battlefield. We need to go and find her, Mo Ying repeated. Xiao Yinyan was dazed. He thought of the woman who was controlled like a wild beast and didn't recognize anyone. He held Mo Ying's hand tightly. She doesn't know you anymore. What if she hurts you if you go and find her? No. Mo Ying's gaze didn't change. Xiao Yinyan's eyes were full of worry. His silver hair fluttered in the wind. That handsome face was faintly discernible in his hair. There was a flash of light in Mo Ying's lifeless eyes. A fleeting image suddenly appeared in his mind. She didn't have time to see it clearly. Then it disappeared. What's wrong? Xiao Yinyan noticed her absent-mindedness and immediately hugged the girl's petite body. Is it too difficult to hold up this barrier? I told you not to enter the battlefield. Let's go out now. Mo Ying grabbed Xiao Yinyan's wrist. No, don't think too much. She calmed herself down and squeezed the man's firm wrist with her soft hand. Go and find Ziqing. Follow me closely. Xiao Yinyan couldn't argue with her, so he could only follow her. With Mo Ying's barrier, the two moved a bit slower, but it wasn't as fast as before. But it was very safe. The two released their dark energy and fought against the big bosses silently. The dark energy waves surged more and more violently. It was as if they had to restrain the other party. The waves around them seemed to be able to swallow mountains and rivers, as if they could swallow everything in the world. The two followed their memories. They came near Tong Ziqing. Under the majesty of the two big bosses. The sorcerer's goo worms that were circling on the ground had long been dispersed by the impact of this wave of energy and were torn into pieces. The monsters that were swallowed by the witchcraft insects were still struggling desperately. Some were also swallowed by the energy. Some were still struggling. Mo Ying saw Tong Ziqing, who was standing among the witchcraft insects, kneeling on the ground and holding her head in pain. The woman wore an ocean blue dress that was stained with dirt and blood. Her slightly hunched body made her look extremely petite. Painful voice, from the mouth. It was a bestial howl of pain. Follow me. Mo Ying gripped Xiao Yinyan's hand tightly and turned his head. With a serious expression, he said, "Hold on to me tightly and don't let go of me." Moing walked slowly towards Tong Ziqing. The current Tong Ziqing. Although it was different from those terrifying witchcraft monsters. But in reality, it wasn't much different. Aside from retaining her original appearance, Tong Ziqing did not look like other goo poison monsters. Her entire body was pitch black, and her movements were extremely similar to a wild beast. She has other habits. He was no different from those witchcraft monsters. Moing guessed. The gloomy palace allowed Tong Ziqing to retain her human form. It was probably to arouse Yiqing Luo's feelings of pity and heartache. Moing curled his lips. His empty and soulless eyes seemed to be plundering some light. Despicable. The girl's voice was crisp and clear. "What's the matter?" Qiao Yinyan lowered his eyes slightly. His silver hair brushed past the girl's fingertips. Moing said indifferently, "I'm going to hold on to Ziqing tightly. Be careful, if she wants to attack someone, knock her out." His words were as light as the wind and clouds. Knock her out. If he made a move on her classmate, the next one to be knocked out would be him. However, Qiao Yinyan pulled her back just in time. The barrier blocked all of Tong Ziqing's attacks. Moing frowned in confusion. Just now, when he regained consciousness, it didn't seem to be fake. How could it suddenly? She broke free from Qiao Yinyan's arms and pulled Qiao Yinyan closer to Tong Ziqing. Tong Ziqing's attack just now had exhausted all of her strength. At this moment, she was shaken by the strong aura around her. Her whole body fell to the ground like a puppet that had lost its strings. Moing approached again, trying to pull her into the barrier. Her wrist was held tightly by Qiao Yinyan's big palm. Chapter 47-25. The man's deep voice still carried a trace of lingering worry. "No. I can't let you take any more risks. You could say he was cold. You could say he was indifferent. Even if Moing would blame him after this. He absolutely didn't want Moing to get hurt." Tong Ziqing had obviously lost her own consciousness. Whereas his seemed indifferent, as if she wouldn't care about anything. But he was very clear. Moing cared about her sisters more than anyone else. As long as Tong Ziqing showed a little bit of kindness, Moing would disregard everything to protect her. But Tong Ziqing was no longer the Tong Ziqing of the past. She would hurt Moing. Qiao Yinyan. Moying's voice was still cold, but her hands were on the man's chest, struggling. "Let me go, she can't hold on any longer." "I don't care." Qiao Yinyan refused to let go. "I don't care about others, I only care about you. Don't make a fuss, nothing can happen to Ziqing." Moying's voice deepened, apparently angry. But Qiao Yinyan refused to let go. Outside the barrier, Tong Ziqing let out a painful moan. As if in the next moment, she was going to be engulfed by the surging profound wave pressure. Countless profound waves shook the surrounding ground, causing numerous cracks to appear. Tong Ziqing's limp body, which had fallen to the ground, was also shaking along with the unceasing tremors of the ground. Crack! Bam! The pressure from the surging profound wave caused the ground to shake once again. The crack on the ground below Tong Ziqing expanded. The woman's body fell into the crack. Ziqing! Moying's eyes widened. The expressionless face of paralysis revealed a panicked expression at this moment. She struggled to break free from Qiao Yinyan and rushed out of the barrier. Between Gu Jingyu and Yiqing Luo, the profound wave pressure poured down. Even Moing felt the pressure from these two forces, as if her internal organs were squeezed. Her petite body was hunched under the pressure. However, she still rushed to Tong Zicheng's crack and bent down. Her small soft hand was about to grab the woman who fell into the crack. Suddenly, a cold wind brushed past her cheek. There was an indescribable meaning in his words. Mo Ying rolled on the ground, dodging the attack. When he looked up again, a young man in blue robes holding a blue long sword appeared in front of him. That pair of azure eyes met hers. Mo Ying's beautiful but empty eyes blinked and met the youth's gaze. A moment later, his lips moved slightly, and he spat out 2 words, "Commander." The youth before him was Long Yunzhan. A familiar face, a familiar person, and a familiar expressionless face. However, the way he looked at her was different. The youth's gaze was cold and indifferent, as if he was looking at a stranger. The sword in his hand was placed horizontally in front of him. It was as if he would attack her in the next moment. Mo Ying's gaze slid down. In the young man's arms was the unconscious Tong Zicheng. Even if he was unconscious, Tong Zicheng's brows were tightly knitted. It seemed to be extremely uncomfortable. Mo Ying's lips moved. She was usually cold and didn't like to talk, but now, she was even more inarticulate. He wanted to ask. Long Yunzhan said coldly, "If you don't want to die, bring everyone back to the Nirvana realm, don't appear in the earth realm again." Only this sentence was left behind. The youth was already carrying Tong Zicheng, disappearing in the thick and majestic profound wave. Chapter 47-26. The expression on Mo Ying's paralyzed face didn't change. But in the depths of his eyes, there was a hint of dark light that flashed. His emotions were very faint. But at least there were some fluctuations. This was a rare sight on Mo Ying's face. He had never seen it before. Qiao Yinyan hugged her from behind and pulled her small body into his embrace. Mo Ying could still hear his frightened voice, "I'm sorry, I really didn't want to see you get hurt." Mo Ying did not move, nor did she struggle. The man's silver hair flowed down along the girl's face and scattered on the girl's body, intertwining with the girl's fine black hair. His temperature. It also enveloped her completely. Qiao Yinyan's voice was soft as he rubbed his head against her. "I know you care about your classmates, and I know the relationship between the two of you. But in the situation just now..." His voice was full of grievance. "My feelings are the same as yours. You care about her, and I care about you. Let go." Mo Ying's voice was indifferent. "I'm not angry at you. You're ignoring me because you're angry at me." Qiao Yinyan refused to let go. He understood this feeling very well. His actions just now were indeed too selfish. He knew that Mo Ying would be angry. But he did not regret it. "I don't wish to talk about such useless things with you here." Mo Ying's tone was calm. "Let's go to the world group to meet up." "What about Qing Luo's side?" Qiao Yinyan was still in a daze when he heard that she had no intention to continue staying on the battlefield. Mo Ying raised her small head, her empty eyes staring at the horizon without blinking, looking at the two people who were speechless. Then, he retracted his gaze and said, "She no longer needs my help." She moved her hands and looked at him expressionlessly. "If I don't let go, how can I leave? I'll carry you." Qiao Yinyan lifted the little pink ball into his arms like a princess. Mo Ying's face was cold as she stared at him for a moment. In the end, she did not stop his actions. She allowed him to act childishly and domineeringly, as if he was trying to please her and was afraid that she would not want him to rely on her. Qing Luo, who was suspended in mid-air, her eyes turned chilly. The bewitching profound light encircled her body. It set off wisps of air waves that rippled in the air. The two of them exchanged dozens of blows in silence. Profound waves collided, the battlefield collapsed, and hurricanes surged. As for the two people who had caused all of this, they did not move at all. How long has it been since we last met? Your strength has improved again. The sinister voice of Gu Jingyu seemed to contain an ambiguous smile. That pair of eyes that were covered with a sinister aura. Eerily cold stares at her chest. No, more accurately, it was her heart. The divine phoenix profound heart jade has indeed been nurtured very well in your body. Gu Jingyu's eyes were filled with greed. I really want to dig out your heart right now and take out your divine phoenix profound heart jade. From his tone, it was as if he had already imagined such a beautiful scene. His tone was filled with excitement and joy. Then, he sighed faintly and shook his head regretfully. What a pity. I still have to let you live. I cannot let you die. I can only let the divine phoenix profound heart jade be nourished in your body for a while longer. Between the words, he had completely regarded the young lady's divine phoenix profound heart jade as his own. The meaning behind his words. After Yi Qing Luo no longer had any value to be used, he would personally dig out Yi Qing Luo's divine phoenix profound heart jade. The rest would continue tomorrow. More, end of this chapter. Watch first episode Zue new chapter section. Please arrive Tang Ku Company, mobile address. Chapter 47-27. Yi Qing Luo's expression didn't have the slightest change. A pair of long and narrow eyes stared at the familiar face in front of her, which was emitting a gloomy and cold aura. Her pink lips parted and her voice was icy cold. I won't give you this chance. Gu Jingyu sneered coldly a few times. He didn't agree with Yi Qing Luo's words. To him, Yi Qing Luo was already in his hands, a fish waiting to be slaughtered by him. Her resistance now. But it was of no use. Even though Yi Qing Luo had ruined many of his matters and plans time and time again. But it couldn't be changed. Yi Qing Luo's existence was only to be slaughtered by him. Yi Qing Luo naturally saw the sinister confidence displayed on that handsome face in front of her. Yi Qing Luo's cold and alluring face revealed some ridicule. Since you are so confident, why? Don't dare to show your true face. The young lady's eyes revealed a cold arc of ridicule. When her pink lips curled slightly. That cold and alluring face. The ridicule in the depths of her eyes was even more. As if it was emitted from her bones, the ridicule and disdain towards the Nether Palace. Her attitude was noble and arrogant, totally not inferior to Gu Jingyu's attitude. You don't even have the courage to meet me, so what qualifications do you have to strut around in front of me? Yi Qing Luo slowly took a step forward. Her footsteps were calm. But her temperament was shaken. It was as though a formless Xian Qi current was lingering around her body, slowly spreading outwards. Gu Jingyu looked at the young lady who was getting closer and closer to him. The complacent and sinister face suddenly froze. The treacherous cold eyes suddenly widened with a thick sinister aura. Even more vicious. Mixed with a few wisps of cold killing intent. Yi Qing Luo didn't seem to feel the coldness from Gu Jingyu. She didn't stop her footsteps. She walked closer and closer to Gu Jingyu. Her pink lips curled up, her voice was still leisurely spilling out from her lips, the person behind the Nether Palace. From the beginning, in my eyes, you are just a rat hiding in the dark. In the past, now and in the future. How afraid are you of facing me with your own face? The girl's words were clear and forceful. The tone of his voice rose. An oppressive aura poured down in torrents. The expression of Gu Jingyu became twisted and hideous bit by bit. His eyebrows were filled with a strange hostility. There was a thick, dark aura of lust. It seemed like it was going to devour Gu Jingyu's body. Yi Qing Luo didn't even give Gu Jingyu a chance to speak. When he stood in front of Gu Jingyu, the curve of her pink lips revealed a hint of cold and tranquil air. Don't think that I will be controlled by you just because you have Gu Jingyu's face. Yi Qing Luo's cold eyes overflowed with cold ridicule. Don't think that. I will become like you because Gu Jingyu tried to save me, and feel guilty and raise my hands to surrender. You kept Gu Jingyu by your side and gave him the identity of the palace lord of the Nether Palace, all because of your own selfishness. Yi Qing Luo's slightly hoarse voice was cold and serene. Gu Jingyu agreed to your conditions and gave his body to you. Most of the reason was because of me, I admit. But the person who pushed him into a life and death situation is you. His master, who personally cut off his path of survival. The young lady's cold tone finally had some fluctuations at this moment. Chapter 47:28. He seemed to be angry. It seemed to be because of Gu Jingyu's injustice and unwillingness. Yi Qing Luo had never denied that she owed Gu Jingyu what he had done for him. However, there was one thing that had to be made clear: from start to finish, the only person she owed was Gu Jingyu. It had nothing to do with Abysmal Palace. It had nothing to do with the people behind the Dark Palace. Gu Jingyu was not the mastermind of Gloomy Palace. He wanted to use Gu Jingyu to achieve his own goals. This was his business. It did not mean that she would choose to compromise because of Gu Jingyu. Furthermore, the girl's fingertips moved lightly. The shimmering red feather fan was extremely dazzling as it flowed with flowing light. The pressure of the Xian wave, with the young girl as the center, snatched the right to the atmosphere of the battle. The one who schemed against Gu Jingyu was you. The one who turned Gu Jingyu into his current state was you. Now, the one who occupied Gu Jingyu's body and tried to use him was you. As the young girl spoke, word by word, the aura around him became more and more majestic. Gu Jingyu had never thought that everything that he had meticulously planned would be treated in such a manner by Yi Qing Luo. It was completely different from what he had expected. This was a completely unconventional way of thinking. In the end, why did she push all the blame onto him? Stunned for a moment, Gu Jingyu grinned eerily and laughed sinisterly. This posture. You want to fight with me? His tone was filled with terrifying disdain. Don't think that just because you were able to fight with me that you have the ability to surpass me. Gu Jingyu sneered, and the mysterious waves on his body spread out little by little. Wisps of dark ripples were mixed with a thick, black, evil aura. Two streams of dark force heavily collided. Intense dark light burst forth. Space trembled. The ground beneath Yi Qing Luo's feet started to crack. It actually suppressed Yi Qing Luo's profound ray, which was released. I'm just playing with you. With your current strength, it's impossible for you to surpass me. The handsome face of Gu Jingyu was filled with a smug and arrogant sneer. Yi Qing Luo's fingertips turned. The devouring flame fan was placed horizontally in front of him. It resisted the oppressive black profound energy. Her expression did not change much. He did not have any misgivings because of the power released by Gu Jingyu. When he met the dark eyes of Gu Jingyu, he was stunned. On the contrary, her pink lips curled into a faint smile. She carelessly scoffed in a low voice, then, are you sure that I used my full strength just now? As soon as the young girl finished speaking. Pang! A loud sound soared to the sky. A powerful aura suddenly burst forth from her body. The dazzling red profound light clashed with the thick black evil energy. Chapter 47:29. Surprise flashed in the eyes of Gu Jingyu, and it was cold. The gaze he shot towards Yi Qing Luo was filled with a different meaning. Evil qi and murderous qi were constantly intertwining. Yiqing Luo raised her eyebrows slightly and stared at Gu Jingyu's ashen face. A faint smile that seemed to be mocking and ridiculing appeared at the corner of his mouth. As expected, his guess was not wrong. The person behind the scenes of Gloomy Palace had used this method to appear in front of her. Either that or because of playing mystery. Either that, or there were other secrets. Just now, he used this as a reason to mock the people behind the scenes of the Dark Ghost Palace from start to finish. However, the person behind the scenes of the Palace of Darkness didn't give any response. If it was really the person behind the scenes of the Dark Palace or someone with a bit of guts. After being ridiculed again and again. Or, if they were unconvinced, they would reveal their true faces and slap themselves in the face. Or he would turn around and leave in anger. But, the mastermind of the Palace of Gloomy Darkness chose to remain silent. Avoid this topic. Based on his past experience, he could tell that the Dragon King's aura was extremely powerful. Yiqing Luo was almost certain, it wasn't that the mastermind of the Gloomy Palace didn't want to appear with his real body. It was just that the mastermind of the Gloomy Palace had no other choice. He could only use Gu Jingyu's body, then a further guess would be, for some reason, the strength of the person behind the scenes of the Dark Abyss Palace was being suppressed. He was not the person behind the scenes of the Dark Palace at its peak. Perhaps she still had a chance to fight back. Take advantage of a person's illness to take his life. Who asked the person behind the scenes of the Gloomy Palace to forcefully put on an act when his body was clearly injured? Wasn't this clearly putting his neck under her knife? It all depended on whether or not she could chop off the neck of the person behind the Palace of Darkness. As it turned out, all of her guesses were correct. Yiqing Luo didn't give the people behind the secluded palace any chance to breathe. His body suddenly bounced up and flew up. The vast dark light, with a sharp and vicious aura, once again attacked the person behind the scenes of the Palace of Darkness. The storm raged. The battlefield had already been destroyed to pieces. Under the dazzling dark light, the girl was dressed in a fiery red dress, dazzling and dazzling. She stood in the air, as boundless profound energy surged around her body with endless energy waves, crazily surging like a tide. What was even more shocking was, the girl's profound rank and profound strength were still continuously increasing. Gu Jingyu had a cold look on his face. The thick black mysterious yin qi entangled with the red light in the air. That handsome face of his didn't reveal any embarrassment or nervousness from being seen through by Yiqing Luo. He was very calm and composed. It was as if he was still hiding something. Since he dared to stand here, how could he not have a foolproof plan? Although the estimation of Yiqing Luo's ability was wrong. However, it did not affect the failure of other plans and arrangements. Under the sharp red glow of the young lady's devouring flame fan, Gu Jingyu waved his sleeve. He took 2 steps back. 2 figures were dragged in front of him. Following that, he pushed him towards Yiqing Luo's direction. Yiqing Luo subconsciously raised her glower flame fan and was about to land it. Yiqing Luo, I advise you not to be rash. The sinister laughter combined with the clear voice of Gu Jingyu. It was extremely out of tune. If the both of them die, I'm afraid you will not be able to find a way to save that little blue dragon of yours. Gu Jingyu's words successfully made the young lady's movements halted. Among the majestic and overbearing profound qi, Old Wu and Wu Chei's figures were faintly discernible. In Old Wu's hand, there was a huge silver basin. Chapter 47:30. The densely packed black venomous worms kept squirming. It was a ghastly sight to behold, one that would strike fear into one's heart. Yiqing Luo's eyes sunk slightly. The venomous worms on Long Yunjian. It was planted by Elder Wu. Previously, when Jun Qingwu helped to inquire about the cure for the heart-devouring venomous worm, she had mentioned it before. The person who planted the venomous worm was needed to cure it. Indeed, only Elder Wu could save Long Yunjian. Yi Qing Luo, the war between the heaven and earth is no longer something you can intervene in. Gu Jingyu's eyes were cold and his tone was awe-inspiring. Yi Qing Luo's eyes were slightly cold, like a cold glint flashed past. Her slender fingers hung by the side of her body. The glower flame fan at her fingertips blended with the flame-red dress. It seemed that because of Gu Jingyu's words, she was unable to make the right choice. His entire person seemed to be somewhat dispirited. Gu Jingyu spoke coldly, "I have said that your so-called loyalty is your biggest shortcoming. If it wasn't for this shortcoming, why would you be provoked by me again and again?" His tone was full of sarcasm. That pair of cold, dark and evil eyes seemed to be mocking Yi Qing Luo's stupidity. Elder Wu Che, continue to release the venomous worms. Gu Jingyu spoke again, his cold eyes looked towards the two of them. Elder Wu looked at the venomous worms in the silver basin and turned to look at Gu Jingyu, but these venomous worms, they were useless. This young lady in front of her. Her battle pet had completely restrained this batch of venomous worms. Even if they were all released, it was also meaningless. What's more, they were still on the battlefield. Gu Jingyu could escape if she wanted to. But she and Wu Che might not be able to leave the battlefield in time. Although the venomous worms were refined by her. But that didn't mean she had enough energy to control the basin full of venomous worms. Gu Jingyu obviously wanted both of them to die on the battlefield. Elder Wu's expression congealed slightly, his eyes were cold and malicious. He was secretly thinking about how to reverse the current situation. And Wu Che, who was next to him, was holding his grandmother's arm. His face was extremely pale. When he looked at Yi Qing Luo, his eyes were filled with unconcealable venom. Her fingers tightened around Venerable Wu's arm. She had been on the battlefield for a long time, following Elder Wu's deployment. After Yi Qing Luo appeared, she had seen everything that she had done. She was like a deity that had appeared. He could easily make those arrogant people from the earth realm, who were unwilling to submit, bow down to him. Then, he looked at her, proudly facing the god realm. As long as Yi Qing Luo was around, it was as if he could turn the world around. That kind of nobility made people look up to him. Why? They were both women. Yi Qing Luo was able to be so unbridled and was respected by everyone. Why did she and Grandma have to be ordered around by this person from the Dark Shadow Palace? Furthermore, even the witchcraft that they wanted to refine and research, they also had to intervene and control it. Wu Che felt a strong sense of injustice. There was also extreme envy towards Yi Qing Luo. There was also hatred towards Yi Qing Luo. If it wasn't for Yi Qing Luo, her life with her grandma would not be disrupted just like that. Grandma would not work hard every day to refine the venomous worms that the Dark Shadow Palace wanted. If it wasn't because of Yi Qing Luo's intrusion that day, messing up Grandma's hard work, delaying the schedule of the Dark Shadow Palace, Grandma wouldn't be hurt because of this. It wouldn't be to protect her. Instead, she forcefully used her own flesh and blood to display the forbidden art of venomous worms, to refine a batch of more perfect venomous worms. You're tuning in to the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.